So 1 in 8 men ever report having mental health symptoms, and the suicide rate for men was crazy high. The large majority of violent crimes are men. The amount of men with therapists is far lower than that of women.
And what I've seen behind the scenes is that men actually do want heart-to-hearts. They're just so fearful underneath all of this. And that was our struggle number 1. Men are deeply insecure.
Conscious couples, business partners, and individuals, welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and relationship expertise to help you consistently cultivate the most magnificent relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges. We'll help you have the courage to be your authentic self, communicate effectively, and constructively resolve conflict.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching, speaking, podcasting, and hosting live events with conscious couples all over the world, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals, welcome back to the one and only Conscious Couples podcast. Today we have an event recap. Episode 202, Men's Struggles Do Not Happen in Isolation. Before we jump into this episode, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you, as always, to Next Level Podcast Solutions for producing this show and so many others. We have 83 clients now. It is increasing quickly, spreading all the good things in the world, sweetheart. We did an event last night, you and I, and this was something that we deeply feel connected on.
Yeah.
What's your intention for today's episode?
So my intention for today's episode is for anyone that's listening to this one to scroll away, pinch away, whatever you're going to do after this episode, to reconsider the challenges that men are going through and ultimately take one little golden nugget from what we have learned, not only through the research and through our own experiences, but also what we heard come up through the event.
So you articulated something at the event. First of all, thank you to everyone who came.
Yeah, that was awesome.
The superhero thing. So you brought up something that I think is very accurate. Mm-hmm. And you said something along the lines of superhero movies and comic books you believe did very well because everyone was looking for a male role model they never had.
Yeah.
And we, by the way, to provide context before I kick it to Emilia here, is we got pretty deep in the session privately and I said, is there anyone here who actually has a male role model that really is their hero, that they think has lived up to the hopes that they had for that person? And I've had dozens of mentors and coaches, and I couldn't really raise my hand for that. But there was someone at the event, shout out to Amy, she said her father, and she went into why. But she was the only one who could really raise their hand, which I found really interesting. So regardless of who's out there watching or listening right now, all I'm saying is we as men have got to figure this out and learn how to be better and learn ourselves. Yeah. So I'm going to kick it to you.
So at the event, I had said and stated the hypothesis that I have had for quite some time, which is most people externalize looking for their heroes or their heroines, right? But ultimately heroes. And the hero industry has become a multi-billion-dollar industry when you think about all the films, all the merch, all the costumes, all of the things that essentially create these characters and these worlds around these characters. You can think of Marvel, you can think of comic books, you can think of so many different films. Pick your favorite quote-unquote hero. The world that's created around this hero is what so many men, women, children, people have externalized and looked to try to gain this semblance of masculine connection. And it is a byproduct of a huge lack of masculine connection internally in the home. And so as someone who has worked with men in mental health, as someone who is also extremely passionate about men's struggles, because I like this episode, men's struggles do not happen in isolation. Men's struggles are everyone's struggles, but yet no one talks about that.
So you had a stat slide that you popped up.
I have it right here ready for us.
So one of them says, one of the bullet points from last night was only 1 in 8 men seek help for their mental health. And
ever report experiencing mental health symptoms.
Okay, so 1 in 8 men ever report having mental health symptoms. And the suicide rate for men was crazy high.
So men account for approximately 80% of suicide deaths, and they are 4 times more likely than women to do so.
Okay, a couple stats here real quick that jump off the page. If you look this up, everyone, you can look this up yourself. I encourage you to do so. The large majority of violent crimes are men. Something crazy like 90% plus.
Yep.
The amount of men with therapists is far lower than that of women.
I actually did get that global stat yesterday because you had asked on the event and I didn't have that ready. Something along 12% of women have sought a therapist in the last year globally. Guess what the percentage was for men?
3?
It was 4%.
4%. Yeah. Okay, so that's 1/3 the amount. Okay, so these stats together break my brain. So you've got 1 in 8 men ever report having mental health symptoms. 3 times less men get therapists. 4 times more likely a man is to take his own life than a woman. Yeah.
Let's talk about also the depression and anxiety, because a lot of people will hear this and be like, well, I haven't committed suicide, or I don't know someone that's committed suicide, or I'm not thinking of that. Let's talk about what gets there. Anxiety and depression is so incredibly affecting men, more than we even know. 6 million men are living with depression, most of which is undiagnosed, right? Clinically undiagnosed. Therefore, they're not getting help to it.
Those are the ones that are reported, so it's even more than that.
And then 4 million live with anxiety disorders that then tie into substance use disorders. So it starts very small, which is the statistics that 29% of men are too embarrassed to talk about anything in here. They'll talk about the weather, they'll talk about sports, they'll talk about, heck, the next film about this hero, but they won't talk about their feelings. They won't talk about what they're going through, the pressures, the challenges, the social and cultural, quote unquote, stereotype of what it means to be a man and how much that feels crippling.
All right, so at the event, we used the film Good Will Hunting, which is one of my favorite films of all time. And way back in the day, I had the duck pond scene on my MySpace page because it was Robin Williams and Matt Damon talking about, Robin Williams was articulating the difference between wisdom and knowledge. If you've not seen Good Will Hunting, I highly recommend it. It is a magnificent film. A lot of people have seen it. Most people at the event had seen it. But the reason that film is so magnificent is because Will was an abused orphan who had no safe male role models. And then he was met by an MIT professor who wanted to see his greatness unfold and help him reach his potential, but he was doing it in a way that was the traditional masculine path.
Just push, at all costs.
Yep.
At all costs.
And I think there's some merit to that, but you need it to be harmonized with the other side, which is the healthy masculinity. So Robin Williams' character represents healthy masculinity in that film.
Yeah.
The woman, Skylar, in the film represents him having trouble with intimacy and love and getting to know himself. And then the professor, the MIT professor, the mathematical dick, as they call it in the film, represents the traditional do whatever it takes, push through. And I think that it's a symphony that needs to have all of them, but it can't just have, I think we've overdone one of them. Talk to the listeners about, if they weren't at the event, what is the biggest takeaway?
Well, one of the things that we didn't show at the event that if you'll watch the film, I do just want to comment on, is that everyone can push so hard in one direction and eventually you will have a psychological break. And this is where midlife crisis for men is actually very common, right? I'm not saying that it's okay or should we normalize it. This is where existential crisis tend to happen in 60 to 7-year-olds 70-year-olds. And then what that kind of comes out into in a family system is men having psychological breaks that everyone else are picking up the pieces of. So you'll see that in the film where Robin Williams' character is trying to depict that, because it doesn't matter what medal you win. At the end of the day, what is happening inside is always more important than your external medals. And over time, I think that as people age, they realize that. But more often than not, on the path to that realization, you single-handedly are negatively impacting people along the way. Just like that professor. If he pushed him to just get that medal and ultimately that would make him feel good about himself, he didn't really care at what expense for Will. And I think that that's a great representation on how much this masculinity and toxic masculinity has, it doesn't matter at whose cost or at what cost, just keep pushing, right? And so I hear a lot of men feeling like they have to be in that role as well, which is what is contributing to their struggles. So if you were at the event, one of the things, or if you weren't at the event, one of the findings that we had that was, from my perspective, actually extremely powerful is most of us don't really have the language to just get started and to try to just understand, okay, if these are the struggles, which we broke them down into 3, and I'll share each one of those 3. But if these are the struggles, what do we actually do about them? And
you had an asset on the slides that showed disconnection versus connection, and there was 2 images of 2 men.
Remind me.
There were like drawings of men, and one of them showed the heart and the head, and then the feet.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
This one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you go through
I'll
that?
send it to the team so that they can pop that on this scene.
Check out, so on YouTube, put this up, please, team, and put that as a link to download the digital asset in the show notes.
So this is, essentially, this is a representation of what I introduced as a helpful tip number 1, or supportive tip number 1, which is helping us to really help have the language to be able to communicate what is happening. So on the left-hand side, you'll see the giraffe, which essentially is stating the basic principles of nonviolent or NVC communication, which is essentially what you observe, then what you feel going to the heart, and then what are the needs that you have, and ultimately what are the requests that you have. So when you're engaging with someone, right, you're engaging with, a man in your family or whatever, if you're observing that their body is really tight around this time of the year, right? You can just simply state, I'm noticing that your body is really tight, right? What is that making you feel? How is that contributing to your feeling? I'm feeling like you don't want to have this conversation because it looks like you're closed off, right? My needs, what are my needs? I would love to connect with you. I really want to have a deep conversation with you, mom, dad, whomever, like brother. The next time that we have this conversation, like, would you be open to kind of releasing those shoulders and kind of just being more present with me? That's what would be ideal in terms of communication, and why that helps men not struggle in isolation.
The alternative, love?
Is this. Most often we are just interpreting what we see. Most often we are having a judgment, which that connects to the 26 to 29% of men feel inherently judged, so they don't actually express what's going on inside. And then from that, we do not seek to have connection. From that,
go right to doing.
Yeah, we focus on a demand and trying to figure out a strategy to get that demand done. So men don't struggle in isolation. Why this asset is helpful and important from my perspective is that we are not, on the right-hand side is the fox, essentially. No connection there. We're not offering up moments of connection for us to be able to talk about what is actually going on inside, when we just make assumptions, when we just interpret.
So this is the meaningless conversation thing.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I noticed that we're going to politics a lot, or I notice that, but like, you notice and observe anything instead of, I'm feeling really stressed out today. What are you guys feeling? What's going on in your worlds? I know the holidays are really kicking up a lot of stuff for me. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. Brother, how are you feeling? Like, what's going on in your world? It's a totally different vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So would you say, everyone think of a late night heart-to-heart with someone, deeply meaningful heart-to-heart. Someone who is a man who is not capable of doing that. That's what we're talking about here?
Yeah, and what I've seen behind the scenes is that men actually do want heart-to-hearts. They're just so fearful underneath all of this. And that was our struggle number one. Men are deeply insecure.
I have a friend way back, and I haven't seen him in years, but he was party hardy, no vulnerability, all the time. And when there were a few nights where if he got drunk enough or stayed late enough, if you got him alone, he would start talking about life.
Oh, those were the best moments.
It was the best moments.
I'm sure you love those moments.
It was the best. It was like,
finally, I can
finally,
see.
I'm not going to say the name.
That's the connection that I'm talking about. Finally.
Right. So I'm not going to say the name, but it was, I knew it. I knew you were miserable.
I knew you have a heart.
I knew you were unhappy and acting happy. Like, I'm so glad we can talk about something real.
Right.
Kevin and I, the Hyperconscious podcast, is change the way you think, change the way you act, change the way you live. The whole podcast was built on heart to hearts. It was built on meaningful conversations, say things that matter to people who care. Is this why some rooms you go into, you can't have a meaningful conversation? Because 100%. No one can go near this, yeah?
Yeah, it's very vulnerable. In the first couple of slides we had at the event.
Why is it vulnerable?
It's very vulnerable to men. Think about the stats. Number one, well, screw the stats for right now. Let's focus on what we've talked about. Number one, they don't have great role models. So when we ask the question, does anyone here have a great role model or that they can think of that's a man? Only one person raised their hand. So because of that, stay with me. Because of that, men are not knowing how to have heart-to-hearts. And then number two, feel good about that and feel like that is of worthiness to be a man. If you have heart-to-hearts and feel good about that, inherently it's like you are a feminine or you are soft. It questions your quote-unquote masculinity and your strength.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
It's so dumb. It's not logical, whatever. But that's because of what your models showed. How many men in your world had heart-to-hearts in front of you and welcomed you in as a little boy into those conversations and said, we're having a really great heart-to-heart, Alan, like, come on over. Like, what are you hearing inside? Like, that's
my stepdad never had
too
heart-to-hearts.
soft, right? Yeah.
So in the movie, the first scene with Robin Williams and Will hunting, he was pointing to books, he was pointing to the painting, he was pointing to externals. He wouldn't talk about himself.
It was beautiful.
He would constantly not talk about self.
Yeah,
right?
It's a deflection mechanism.
It's a defensive and deflection mechanism. Okay, deflection mechanism is a good thing. Okay, so we got to jump. A couple of things to wrap up here. Number one, if you had to pick a male role model in your real life and or in film, who would it be and why? Number two, if you are around people who can't have heart-to-hearts, that is an indicator that that person is either not aligned for you, definitely not growth-oriented, at least not personal growth. Maybe they can grow externally, but not internally.
What I would say is do not personalize that, because that is a reflection of them and their lack of capabilities. And they're deeply insecure about that, but they'll never tell you about that. They won't go to therapy. They won't actually go any near conversations. And it's not because there's something wrong with you. I find a lot of people internalizing and personalizing that as if it's their fault. It is a reflection of them and the lack of capabilities that they've developed as a result of these things that we've talked about.
This is a relationship podcast. One of the most common quotes before we get out of here is, you can only meet your intimate partner to the extent that you've met yourself. So if you're out there right now and you feel like you've had a partner who has never met themselves, you might feel kind of alone emotionally. And this might be why. So we got to get out of here, love. Thank you to everyone who came to the event. Our next one is on how to align with your partner on finances. I'm going to let Emilia talk about that.
Well, we have in 2025, one of the biggest findings that we've come again and again to is that couples do not have a system to align on their finances. So their goals, their dreams, everything that they want and everything that they're struggling to manage on the day-to-day is a complete shit show, for lack of better words. And we're not blaming anyone for that, but we do know that so many couples are going to benefit on the actual how. Like, what are the systems? What's the bare minimum that we should be doing as a couple? And how do we make sure that our dreams are possible when we have the certainty within our numbers and our finances?
Emilia and I do something called We Metrics. We're going to teach you how it works for us. Achieve your goals and dreams together. Also, if you want relationship talks coaching, Emilia and I have several clients that we work with, couples that are not just in love, but also achieving their goals and dreams together. The first one is free. The link will be in the show notes. Thank you again. As always, it's not about you or me. It's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please check the show notes to connect with us and say hello on social media.
If you and your partner resonated with this episode, please leave us a 5-star review at the link in the show notes and share this with someone you love. Until next time, it's not about you or me, it's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.